The countryside gets boring at times, yet here I am, after years of not visiting, finding myself back here once again. I have to admit, though, it's peaceful. The air is cleaner, and the sounds are so different compared to the city. But I can't shake this strange unease. Maybe I'm just not used to it anymore. It's been so long. Honestly, it's frustrating. It's summer break. I should be home wasting my life watching stupid videos on the internet, but the data signal here is terrible. I blame my parents. Why did they have to take that stupid work trip? It's not my fault. Why couldn't they trust me to stay home for once? I'd have been fine on my own, instead of being sent to this god-forsaken internet-free place. I've spent most of the day watching my grandparents work on the farm. They wanted me to help, but I faked a stomachache from the trip. It worked, at least for now. By nightfall, I couldn't sit still anymore. I decided to walk to the store, even though it's ridiculously far from here. "Don't stay out too long," my grandfather warned. "The night gets dark fast around here." I nodded, just to get him off my back, and left. It's been over half an hour now, and I'm exhausted. Why do they have to live so far from the only store? I hate it here. In the distance, I spot a bus stop illuminated by a dim light. It looks inviting, so I decide to rest there for a moment. As I sit down, the day's fatigue hits me harder than I realized. My eyelids grow heavy, and I begin to drift off. Just before sleep claims me, I think I hear a giggle, a soft, fleeting sound. I must have imagined it because, before I can think too much about it, I'm out. How long has it been since I was last here? 5, maybe 6 years. I was just a kid back then, around 10. My mum and dad were always working, so my grandparents took care of me. I even went to the elementary school nearby. Life was simple. Then I moved to the city for high school, and everything changed. I've always been a loner, then and now. I don't have much going on in my life. Most of my days are spent watching videos or complaining about life with my small circle of equally unmotivated friends. What am I even doing with my life? I know I'm pathetic, but isn't everyone when they're young? At least, that's what I tell myself to justify it. I'm enjoying my youth, even though there's not much to enjoy. A soft giggle breaks through my thoughts, pulling me from the edge of sleep. This time, it's clearer, closer, like that of a child. I mumble something dismissive, half asleep, and the sound fades away. My eyes grow heavy again, and I slip back into slumber. Then I start to dream. When I was a kid, I remember playing with someone here, a girl. She was my only friend in this quiet place. We used to meet at this bus stop, talking and playing for hours. One day, we talked about the future. She asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up. I shrugged and said, "I don't know. Probably just play games." She gave me a look that, back then, I didn't understand. Looking back, I realize it was disappointment. It reminded me of the way my mom looked at me when I forgot to clean the house while she and dad were away. When they came back to a mess, I got an earful for being too engrossed in gaming to care. Eventually, I had to say goodbye to the girl. My parents decided it was time for me to move to the city. She seemed excited at first, telling me she wanted to go to the city someday too, but she couldn't, not yet. We talked for hours that day at the bus stop. Then she asked me a question. "Now that you're going to the city, I bet you're going to do some great things, right?" I gave her the same answer I always did. "I don't know. Probably just sleep or whatever." Her face went blank. Then she started crying. I didn't know what to do. I tried to comfort her, but she grabbed my hand, her grip so tight it hurt. She stared at me with a mix of sadness and something I couldn't quite place. Then she pushed me away and ran into the forest, toward where she said her family lived. I tried to follow her, but all I found was a single tree in a clearing. There was no house, no signs of anyone. Before I could search more, I heard a car and my parents calling my name. I never got the chance to figure out what had happened to her. Sitting here now, it's all coming back to me. Her expression, her words, her tears. It's like being here has stirred something long buried. Suddenly, I hear it again, the giggle, clearer than before. It sends a chill down my spine. Jolting awake, I look around, and in the distance, I see her, a girl running into the forest. Without thinking, I get up and follow. My exhaustion vanishes as curiosity and unease drive me forward. The forest grows darker with each step, but I keep going until I reach the clearing. There, I see the tree, the same tree from all those years ago. But now, it's withered, its bark gnarled and blackened, like it's been rotting for decades. Suddenly, my head throbs painfully, like a vice tightening around my skull. I stumble, clutching my forehead as flashes of memories that aren't mine flood in. Fragments of a life lived long ago fill my mind. I see a girl in the memories. A younger version of her sits with her parents, their faces tired but full of love. They work tirelessly, picking crops, mending fences, and taking odd jobs just to make ends meet. At night, she studies by candlelight, her small hands trembling from exhaustion, but refusing to stop. The hope in her parents' eyes keeps her going. Years pass in a blur. Her family finally saves enough to send her to live with her aunt in the city. This is her chance to pursue her dreams and escape the struggles of rural life. I watch her packing her belongings, tears of excitement streaming down her face. She hugs her parents tightly, promising to make them proud. Then the dream shifts. She is waiting at the bus stop, her suitcase beside her. A drunken man stumbles into view. She tries to ignore him, but he gets closer, his shadow looming over her. She tells him to leave her alone, her voice trembling, but he doesn't listen. Everything becomes frantic. The man grabs her, dragging her toward the forest. She screams, clawing at him, but no one hears her cries. No one comes to help. The memory ends as I see her body buried beneath the tree in the clearing, her future stolen in an act of senseless cruelty. I fall to my knees as the memory fades. My body is trembling, and the air feels heavier, pressing down on me like the forest itself is alive. My legs give out beneath me, and the world begins to spin. Darkness closes in around me, but before I lose consciousness completely, I hear a voice. "You're still the same person, even after all these years," the voice says. It is soft and childlike at first, but grows sharper, almost angry. Those words echo in my mind as everything goes black. When I wake up, I am leaning against the tree. My body feels ice cold and strangely heavy, and nausea churns in my stomach. I struggle to stand, forcing myself to stumble out of the forest. Each step is exhausting, but somehow I make it back to my grandparents' house. It is the only house for miles, so I know I am in the right place. I knock weakly on the door. When it opens, my grandparents are there. Their worried faces blur as I collapse into their arms. I cannot explain what happened. I cannot tell them anything. The next few days pass in a haze. I spend my time helping my grandparents and forcing myself to settle into this quiet life. My body still feels strange, but I try not to think about it. When summer break ends, my parents come to pick me up. As I sit in the car, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. For the first time in years, I feel determined. Back in the city, I throw myself into my studies. I meet new people, work harder than ever, and start building a life I never thought possible. People tell me I've changed, but I just smile and say I needed to expand my horizons. After high school, I get into a good university and land a great job. Years pass, and eventually, I return to the countryside. My grandparents are older now, and my parents decide to move in with them after they sell the farm and buy a cozy house in the suburbs. Even so, I find myself drawn back to the bus stop. I walk to the clearing, where the tree still stands. It looks even worse now. The bark is twisted and brittle, and the branches stretch toward the sky like skeletal fingers. I stand there for a long time, staring at it as memories resurface. Finally, I whisper, "I'm sorry." A cruel smile creeps across my face, and I giggle softly, the sound lighter and more childlike than it should be. Without another word, I turn away and head back toward my grandparents' house to help them move. The girl by the bus stop never truly left, and now neither have I.